what I want to do is give you the overall understanding. If you have the overall understanding of things, then you won't, first of all, it'll help you understand when you're hearing false things versus true things. It'll also give you a foundation to study and to pursue this, because we go to school, we all graduate high school, not all of us, but most of us do, and we are supposed to have had a standard education. What they failed to teach us was how to take care of ourselves. They overlooked that. Okay, you're ready for the world, but you don't know how to take care of yourself. So since you don't know how, you see those guys over there in the white coats? All life is energy. All things in the universe are energy. When you look at the universe, if you look out at a very cosmic level, you're going to see supernovas and you're going to see black holes. You're going to see supernovas spewing out hundreds of thousands of galaxies. I mean, you have to understand what that means. It's hard to fathom. For example, in this galaxy alone, the Milky Way galaxy, there are thought to be 100 billion stars. And there's thought to be, in the part of the universe that we can see, there are at least 100 billion galaxies. So when we're talking, anyway, but if you look at it, and if you look at it from a certain perspective, you'll see that it's just energy exchange. Right? The black hole's sucking up energy, the supernovas are putting, all the stars are putting out energy, it's changed. So on a cosmic level, when you get down here on the Earth and other planets, depending on what's on the planet, there's different forms of energy exchange. So now let's get down to the biosphere, biology, life. And what life is all about is energy exchange. And so it all starts where the energy is incorporated into the biosystem, the biosphere, is through a reaction between light and chlorophyll that happens in plants. The light of the star, the one star that we happen to be revolving around, is just always warm, always hot, sending out light. One ray of light hits the leaf, and it stimulates it becomes the catalyst and the energy source for a chemical reaction that produces glucose. So light is always symbolized by HV. Light plus chlorophyll. And then we'll say that's a plant. Produces glucose. Oh, there's one other thing. Okay, so carbon dioxide is in the air. Carbon dioxide is what you breathe out when you exhale. Carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide, chlorophyll, and so glucose is produced, plus there's another waste product called oxygen. So what comes out of the plant is glucose and oxygen. And in fact, it's something that is I've always thought was mind-blowing, is if I look at a big tree. How about a redwood tree? They're like way high, they live 2,000 years, right? Big, massive tree. I remember when I was in California, it took 30 of us holding hands to go around the trunk of this tree. All of that mass of the tree is an organic matter. Organic matter, by definition, is anything that has carbon as a skeleton, made of carbon. Organic doesn't mean the organic food. We've misused that word. Because feces is organic, and you certainly don't want it in your food. So we don't. When we say organic food, we mean no chemicals used. Okay, but the word organic, when you study organic chemistry, you're studying the chemistry of carbon. Anyway, all the carbon that goes into making the proteins and all that stuff that make this massive tree comes out of the air. Carbon dioxide. That's where the carbon comes from. That tree came out of the air. And what generated the ability for that reaction to happen was a ray of light. Produces glucose. So what is glucose? Glucose is a 5-carbon sugar that contains energy. And it becomes the fundamental fuel for all organisms. And this stuff is necessary. So in our cells, if you look at our cells, they have a double membrane, and in the middle where our DNA is, we have another double membrane, the DNA. And then we have all these other little organelles that have single membranes, except we have at least 100 or more of these special little organelles inside of our cells called mitochondria. And mitochondria take 6 molecules of oxygen and 1 molecule of glucose and produce 38 ATP. ATP is the currency of energy in biological systems, whether it's a bacteria, or bear, a whale, an oak tree. It's ATP, ATP, ATP. ATP just means adenosine triphosphate, 3 phosphates. The last phosphate is a high energy phosphate. When it's broken down, it releases energy in the form of electrons. So electrons are the plant's transmutation of light. Light becomes electrons, and those electrons get stored. So anyway, that's what we're talking about. So we become electrical. We are electrical. That's why when we test your blood, we look for electrolytes. Your sodium, potassium, chloride, magnesium, calcium. We look at all these electrolytes. Why? Because they have positive charges and negative charges. Positive, negative charges allow the flow of electrons. And the flow of electrons is called electricity. So if I want to know how your heart's doing, I do an EKG. And the EKG, I can see this. You know, I see a pattern like this. And by the shape, the size, and the rhythm, I can tell how healthy your heart is, because that's the electrical pattern it's generated, right? It's generating that electrical pattern. So what happens if it goes like this? If you get a flat line and you're in a hospital, what do we do? We grab paddles and we try to put the electricity back in you. So if we do this, it doesn't work. We go higher, doesn't work. Go higher, doesn't work. We add epinephrine, we add different things, it doesn't work. Time of death, 11:29. So time of death is when you can no longer hold a charge. If you can hold a charge, you're alive. If you can't hold a charge, you're dead. So the ability to hold a charge is to be alive. In other words, the ability to retain and utilize energy is to be alive. And the minute you can no longer, it's dead. In my office in the US, I have a potato clock. And it's a clock that has a potato, and you take here's the clock, 2 electrodes, plug them into the potato, and the clock works. And the clock works because the potato is still alive. It has a bioelectric charge, and it'll work for about a week or 2 until the potato dies. Just as a rhetorical question, if I bake the potato, would the clock work? The answer is no, because you will have killed the potato. So you'll still have starch, you'll still have fiber, you'll still have protein. You might have some fat, but you'll have no life. And since life is all about energy, how much energy can you get from a corpse? Not a lot. Unless you are a maggot. Maggots are really good at getting energy from corpses. The same with your brain. I want to know how your brain's doing. I do an electroencephalogram. I want to know your muscles. I do an electromyogram. Okay, in other words, I need to see the electrical pattern that is produced by this organ to know that it's functioning. Now, so when we look at biology and we look at all the different organisms, from bacteria, nanobacteria, viruses, funguses, whales, trees, every organism has two jobs. One is to extract energy from the environment and use it. By doing that, they are now an energy source for something else. Okay, so they're grabbing energy and they're, right? So the lion doesn't want to eat a tree. So the zebra eats the tree and the lion eats the zebra. So in other words, it's an energy exchange. Okay. The zebra makes it available for the lion. Energy exchange, energy exchange. So every organism is designed, okay, and the second thing that organisms do is have sex. They make babies. They have to have babies. They have to procreate the species. So one is generating, taking energy and transmuting it, and the other one is procreation. So that's what life turns out to be all about. Biological life turns out to be about that. So Freud was half right, but he was a little bizarre. You know, Freud was a cocaine addict, right? Yeah, he was completely addicted to cocaine. And what does cocaine do to people? Makes them crazy, horny. So that's, you know, so all of his theories are, you have to take them with a grain of salt. Even though he was actually a pretty smart dude. He came up with a really good way of thinking of things. But he was, if you read his interpretation of dreams, a little bit bizarre. Just a little bit bizarre. But anyway, he must have done a lot of coke when he was writing that book. But in those days, you know, it was legal. You know, back in those days, they actually, around 1885 AD up to about 1915, it was stylish to carry a chain with a hypodermic needle. Because in those days, you could walk into any pharmacy and order heroin and order... In fact, in medical journals, doctors recommended heroin as a cure for alcoholism. Yeah, I guess it works. But anyway, so and so opiates were available, and like Coca-Cola, where did it came from those days? Coca-Cola was made with cocaine originally. So in those days, it was, you know, it was a different world. It wasn't until around 1913 that there was a law passed in the U.S., and then it started everywhere where they started regulating these things. But anyway, so in Freud's day, it was like totally okay. Those are the two fundamental functions of every biological entity, every biological organism, is taking energy, utilizing it, and becoming an energy source for something else, and procreating the species. So that's what they do, okay? So, now, therefore, we can say that every organism exists to perform a function, a necessary function for the whole thing that we can call nature. Nature is the whole thing. And nature is everything from the supernovas to funguses, to bacteria. It's everything. And the thing about nature, there's no waste. The term waste is irrelevant when it comes to nature. So, a bear in the woods has a bowel movement. It turns out to be nourishment for other organisms. For insects, bacteria, funguses, that's their banquet. There's no, the bear dies, becomes, the plants love it, the insect, it's food. So again, we're recycling, there's no waste. The only waste produced is with what we do. And what we do, so what God produces is called nature, and what man produces is called artifact, artificial. So when archaeologists are going on their digs, what are they looking for? Artifacts. They're looking for something that's unnatural, and they can say, aha, there was men here and women. And our things don't. Now, the earth is supreme, and the earth will eventually recycle whatever we throw. We can throw at it a very beautiful computer, and it's going to still be there in 10 years. It'll still be there in 100 years. But you give it a couple thousand years, it's gone. So I don't care what it is, the earth will eventually do it. It's just that it's not immediately recyclable, so therefore it doesn't qualify as being biodegradable. When we talk about biodegradable, we're talking about something that will immediately be consumed and recycled. So anyway, so we produce waste, nature doesn't. But anyway, so when we look at when we want to understand an organism, all we have to do is we have to look at, because you all know that you all have the understanding of the relationship between form and function. Form and function. If you take the hand of an ape and the hand of a human, and the difference really is here. Theirs don't go that way. They just go forward. They're like this. They don't have the opposable thumb. It's that opposable thumb that allows us to do all this tool making. Okay, so that's form and function. If there's wings, you fly. If there's legs, you walk. If there's gills, you breathe underwater. Form and function. An anteater has a long nose. Okay, it'd be hard for an anteater to eat anything but ants. Termites, maybe, But anyway, so that's it. So form and function. So when you look at an organism's form, you can understand its function. And when we're talking about function, we're talking about what is its function in relationship to nature. So birds and bees all have a specific set of functions. Bears have a specific set of functions. All creatures have a specific set of functions that they're doing. Right? So in addition to becoming an energy source, taking energy, using that energy to perform the function, and then becoming an energy source themselves, when they're performing their functions, such as, and they don't know they're doing it, we're the only ones that have to try to figure out what we're doing. They're under the auspices of instinct. An instinct, I want you to realize, is the divine web by which all creatures are connected to the wisdom of the universe, the wisdom of nature, the wisdom of God. I mean, a flock of birds who turned perfectly did not go to aviation academy. And they put to shame any fighter jet pilot. No school, no rehearsals, just do it. Bees make these incredible honeycombs. Spiders make webs that we can't fathom. They're perfect feats of engineering. Didn't go to school, didn't study it. Every creature is doing what it's doing perfectly. Nature can't do anything but perfection. Nature is hardwired to do, and what is the law that nature operates under? It's called the law of necessity. It's not the law of morality. There's no morality in nature. Things are not good or bad, they just are necessary. If they are, they're necessary. If they aren't, they aren't. If something isn't, why don't we have, it's not necessary. Why did this, it's necessary. So this really helps you a lot now. You don't have to ever ask that word again. You don't have to say why. You might ask how, when, where, but why is because it's necessary. How do we know? Otherwise it wouldn't be. You have to think about that for a while. It might take a year or two, but you realize it's true. So the law of necessity. Remember, water doesn't run downhill because it's really a good thing to do. It runs downhill because it's necessary. Is water running downhill good? Well, not if it's 500 cubic tons running down the hill onto a village. Is that good? It's necessary. You have to eliminate good and bad. Take this morality thing out. Morality is completely plastic and flexible anyway, isn't it? If you're a young man, 20 years old, and the leader of your country says, I want you to go kill these people, it's totally legal. You kill them. Now there's an armistice, a peace, and now you kill that person, you go to jail. That was an immoral act. The other one, it was okay, it was moral. Say what? Is morality negotiable? Anyway, I just want you to understand. So, morality is a construct. It's not a reality. It doesn't exist. Okay, so now, so it's clear to see. It's easy to see what birds, the function of a bird. The bird doesn't have to ask questions about what to do, and yet the bird won't make mistakes. They know exactly what to eat, how to eat it, when to eat it. They know what not to eat. An animal will smell and know it's not okay to eat. So what's our problem? What happened to us? Why is it that we don't know? Why is it we have to have seminars on what to eat, when to go to sleep, how to have relationships? We don't know anything. And there's theories. There's theories that are based on, they come up with these other abstract, weird concepts. Eating for your blood type. What? Horses have different blood types. Do you think some should eat hamburgers and some should eat hay? This is bizarre. No, only us. So if you have type O, you can eat that. We're so stupid. We believe everything and anything. Oh, let me finish the thing. Why is it that we are cut out of nature? And actually, that's our problem. The fundamental philosophical position that underlies civilization and underlies almost all of human behavior is the delusion that we're not part of nature. And so we have built boxes and we live in boxes. We transport each other and ourselves through machines. We have relationships with computers, etc., etc., etc. We like nature to be kept over there in zoos and in parks, not in my house. If you get some earth on your shirt, change your shirt. But we don't call it earth, right? What do we call it? Dirt. Dirt. As if it's a pejorative term, as if earth was something bad. So when the child comes in, instead of the mother saying, "You look earthy," "Oh, you're dirty, jumping up here, you got earth on you." Now, if you get some earth on your food, And so we want to clean it and sterilize it, not knowing that we have over 100 trillion bacteria living on and in us, and without them we'd be dead. But we're going to sterilize what? By the way, sterilize something. Sterilize. Pour acid, alcohol on something. Let it dry off. Then scrape it and look under a microscope. It takes a nanosecond to be recolonized. And next time you're eating a corpse, take a little piece of the corpse and look under the microscope. Even if you charbroiled this corpse, take a look at it under the microscope and see what's there. If you saw what was there, you probably wouldn't eat it. And if you knew where it came from, for sure you wouldn't eat it. If you knew that when the animal was slaughtered, that it urinated and defecated all over itself, and that the corpses lie marinating in their own feces and urine, and then they got stiff and hard, and it's called rigor mortis, so they had to let them decay. They call it aging. It's an aged corpse, not a decayed corpse. So you let this marinated in filth corpse decay for 96 hours. Then you cut out the pus, you cut out the maggots, and take it home for dinner. But your dishes are clean, and your silverware is clean, and the glass, there's no spots on the glass, right? And you washed your hands before you ate, right? And then you said a prayer. God bless this food. And with our little pinkies up here, we're cutting the dead muscle of an animal that was tortured and killed. Do we need it? No. We like it. Can we live without it? Longer. Better. But I like it. It's just okay. As long as you like it, kill it. Right? Isn't that okay? I'm not going to kill an animal. I'm going to buy it from the guy. So what you're doing when you buy it, you're paying him to have killed it. Murder for hire. Is that okay? Is there any difference? Can I ask you, what is the difference between killing something because you want to eat it versus raping something because you want to have sex with it? Yeah, there's such little difference. Is one worse? Anyway, my goal is to help you stop ignoring what you already know. To remember what's right in front of you. It's right in front of you. It's right there screaming. I'm eating chicken nuggets. What the hell's a nugget? This is beef. That's a great word because have you ever seen beef walking around? No. You ever see a sausage farm? No. We changed the name. We changed the shape. We cook it. We change it. Because we don't have the stomach to eat to talk about what we're really eating. You get up in the morning and the wife says to the husband, "Would you like some pig corpse and chicken embryos for breakfast?" No, I'll pass on that. How about some bacon and eggs? Okay. Anyway, I digressed. Let me get back to the point. The point is that the reason we left the garden, so to speak, is because we are denied access to our instincts. When you're born and you come home, your parents are just totally in love with this new little thing for a little while. But soon you find the parents having 3 themes in their conversation with you. No! Stop! Don't! No, stop, don't. No, stop, don't. So what is a little pre-verbal human going to think? They don't know words yet. All they know is everything I do pisses her off. Oh. Okay. So basically, the communication from the gods of this infant's universe is, you're not good enough. You're faulty. We're going to fix you. So the fundamental relationship between parent and child is that of rejection. And the parent is rejecting the child's natural instincts, as if they were bad. Where did the instinct come from? God. Is the instinct, do they hurt dogs? No. Without instinct, they'd be dead. Without instinct, gorillas would be dead. Without instinct, we would have no honeycombs and no honey. Without instinct, the universe would not function. It is the wisdom of the universe. We're cut off. We're not allowed to be instinctual. If you're a little girl, you can't sit with your legs apart. If you're a little boy, you can't cry, etc., 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 etc. And you eventually, instead of being a natural, instinctive earthling, you become a good American, a good Brit, a good African, a good Thai, a good Chinese. And what does that mean? That means you follow all of those rules, all of the rules of culture. So you get enculturated. This enculturation process takes us from natural, instinctive beings to enculturated, hybrid mutants who don't know how to live on planet Earth. If you took your clothes off and you walked into the jungle, how long would it take you before you would start crying? We don't know how to live on this earth anymore. We know how to live in these contrived situations, these contrived environments. We know how to get online, we know how to Google something, but we wouldn't know what to eat if it wasn't served in a package. And so we have lectures we talk about it. I've never seen horses having seminars on this. Dumb animals. They're really dumb. We're the only ones that are intelligent. But they have the big frontal lobe. Anyway, so instinct, we cut off from instinct. We therefore lose connection with the wisdom of the universe. By the way, animals don't have to meditate or pray because they're in continual connection with it all. They're there. We're not. And of course, most of the time we're praying, we're not meditating. And what does praying mean? You're blabbering. Again, you don't know anything, but you're blabbering. And usually we're asking, unless you're repeating some sort of just a prayer that you were taught, then you're asking for something. Wow. The thing is, what we forget to do is meditate. What is meditation? Listening. Okay, you got busy asking, can I? Oh, it'll be really good. Listen for the answer. We don't listen to the answer. So, anyway, digress again. Now, so when it comes to humans, so let's look at, we're talking about energy. Now, energy, what you have to understand about energy is that which distinguishes sickness from health. If I jump out of bed in the morning and I'm like, I'm healthy. If I get out of bed, I'm sick. I call on the phone, I don't have any energy. I'm not coming into work today. When my energy is restored, I'm okay. The difference between old age and youth. You got a 110-year-old lady sitting on the chair. You got a 10-year-old girl bouncing off the walls. In fact, you watch children, 7, 8, 9, 10, they run, and then they run. They can't. They got so much energy. And they're playing and laughing, and what do we tell them? You can do that for now. It won't last. You got to get serious. In other words, you got to lose your energy, forget about reality, and start playing the game. And we're going to teach you the game. Now, if you get 18 years old and you still haven't learned how to play the game correctly, there's two places you can go. Psychiatric institution or a penal institution. You'll be imprisoned one way or the other. Or play the game. These are the rules in our free societies. And the freest country of all, America, I think, has the highest rate of incarcerated people. And I think Americans even would give the death penalty to children. So, to help us, since we don't know where we fit in nature, to be very basic, let's take a look at our anatomy and physiology. So if we look at our anatomy and physiology, we can get an inkling of what our function should be. And function, what does all function involve? Basically eating. How you consume energy and then you use that energy to do different things. So, now when we look at dogs and cats, they are mammals. We actually fit into the mammal group. Mammals are warm-blooded, hair or fur, babies born alive, not in eggs, and mammary glands to produce milk. This is a mammal. There are land mammals and sea mammals. So let's understand that we are land mammals. Of the land mammals, we're going to divide them into the cats and dog category and then all the rest. The cats and dogs are distinguished from all the others by the fact that their jaws only move vertically. They have no cheeks. They have no lips. Their tongues are long and thin for lapping up water. Their saliva is acidic. Their teeth are sharp, not flat. Their digestive tract only move vertically. Their digestive tract is very short and straight because flesh has a tendency to putrefy rather quickly, so you have to grab it, use it, and get rid of it quickly. Livers have a lot of uricase. They break down uric acid very easily. Their claws are ready to kill. And they don't sweat. They pant. When they're hot, they pant. And there's two kinds. There's the cats and the dogs. The cats are pure carnivores. They eat the animal alive. They grab it, they break its neck. They don't have cheeks, so they can get in there and bite. For us, it's hard to bite the neck. Cheeks get in the way. They have long teeth. If you think these are canines, go to the zoo, open the mouth of a lion, and then reassess your thought that we have canines. These are not canines. Anyway, they do. They kill it, and as the animal is dying, they're eating the heart, they're eating the lungs, they're eating the intestines, they're eating the liver, kidneys, drinking the blood, eating the eyeballs. And if they save anything for the vulture, it's called steak. It's what we call steak. Now, the dogs, on the other hand, are lazier. They have the same apparatus, they can kill, but they're okay. They prefer that you killed it already. They like to eat the corpse. Sound familiar? Corpse eaters. Yeah, we like to have our animals dead, right? Usually, right? If I'm going to eat, I want it to be dead. Okay. We also agree that we're more like dogs than cats. It's interesting, the dogs, which are like the hyenas, the wolves, the foxes, all of them are dogs. And the cats are lions, tigers, panthers, cheetahs, and the house cat. They're all cats. The scavengers, the dogs, if you took away their any ability to eat flesh, they would live. In fact, you can take a 12, 13-year-old dog who's dying, old, and switch it to a vegetarian diet. It'll live another 10 years, 8 years. I've done that twice. Can't do that with a cat. Cats have to eat flesh. In fact, when they first started to have zoos and they had lions in zoos, they noticed that they were not reproducing. And they were giving them the big leg of the zebra, they were giving them this stuff, and they weren't reproducing. And then what happened was the zoo was around long enough, started to get rats. The rats would run through, they started eating the rats, and they started reproducing. They need to eat the animal alive. So, now then there are the other side, the non-flesh eaters. These, horses, cows, gorillas, elephants, rhinos, deer, all of them. Their jaws move horizontally and vertically. Cheeks, lips, teeth are flat, tongue is thick and muscular. Saliva is not acidic, it's alkaline. Digestive tract is very long and convoluted. Ours, 10 meters, 30 feet. Liver, not a lot of uricase. And all these animals sweat. They don't pant. And these hands are made to kill. If you want to kill, you got to get a tool. You got to get a weapon. You're not going to pick up something and start eating it. You grab a chicken, rip its head off and eat it? Probably not. So, and by the way, prior to the loss of instinct, let's say you took a 1.5-year-old child from any country, Africa, New Zealand, Scandinavia, put them down in a little playpen with a rabbit and an apple. They'll eat the apple and play with the rabbit. You put a rabbit and an apple in a cage with a baby lion, he'll eat the rabbit and play with the apple. So prior to the loss of instinct, and no human has ever looked at a cow or a sheep walking and go, and neither have you come upon a corpse on your walk home from school and you see a dead animal and you get down and start smelling it. Your dog would do that. Smelling it. Do we do that? We go. You don't say, I'm going to take this corpse home. Forget going to the market today. I want to go to the market. Well, no, humans are omnivores. Is that true? What's an omnivore? An omnivore is an animal that will eat either flesh or. So what does an omnivore have to be equipped with? The ability to eat flesh. So let's look at some of the famous omnivores. Bear, 90% vegetarian, but if they got to kill, they're totally capable. Vertically moving jaws. And sometimes they're horizontal. They can move horizontal as well, but they have a snout. Rats, omnivores, snout. Raccoons, snout. An animal that's an omnivore must have a snout, must be able to kill. Without weapons, without tools. Naturally equipped by nature, suited by nature to perform that function. And what drives those functions, those behavioral, those activities, what drives them is instinct. And as I said, we don't lick our lips when looking at animals or corpses. So no matter how unculturated we are, we still have a hard time with that. And I don't care how rare you like your steak, you don't want it alive and bleeding. And neither do you want the corpse sitting there in blood. Where do we fall in? We fall into the other category, the second category. And in fact, there's a group of animals that we actually resemble. These are gorillas and chimps, etc. The tailless apes, the tailless primates. They're called hominids. And since we don't know what they eat, we should ask them. And just watch what they eat. So, remember, the health is, let's talk about health. There's a word called health. Now, what you'll notice about this word is that the root is heal, and it's the ability to heal. What are we healing? What does that mean, healing? Well, our body consists of approximately anywhere from 70 to 100 trillion cells. These cells are performing at every second chemical reactions. 1 to the 24th power means 1 with 24 zeros after it. It's called a septillion. Actually, it's a little more than a septillion. But anyway, that's how many chemical reactions every second. Why? Because we've got to keep maintenance. And part of this maintenance means that every second we are also making 2 to 3 million new cells per second. Losing and making 2 to 3 million new cells per second. So you can never be accused of doing nothing. No one can ever call you lazy. Lazy? Are you kidding? In the last 5 minutes, you wouldn't believe how many cells I made. Okay, so that's what's happening every second, this many chemical reactions in this many cells. So it's all energy. And in fact, when we look at the amount of, when we want to measure in millivolts, because we talk about electricity, a cell requires approximately 25 millivolts of electrical potential to function. If it gets damaged, it then has to be able to maintain 50 millivolts to heal, to repair. If it's a chronic damage, chronic inflammation, cancer, arthritis, heart disease. You need to get up to 70 millivolts. How do you do that? Well, you got all those little mitochondria making all the ATP, etc., and every cell must maintain 1 billion ATP at every second. Now, we talked about the cell having a double membrane. That double membrane basically is a conductor, insulator, conductor. It's two fatty acids with phosphate groups on the end of it. So it's a biphospholipid layer that functions as, in electrical terms, we call it a capacitor. A capacitor is something that holds a charge. So our cell walls, our cell membranes function as capacitors. And the membranes are made of fat. 50% is made of fat, which means you have to have good, healthy fats to have a good membranes around your cells to be able to hold the charge necessary for function and for life and repair and etc. Now those fats come from where? Whatever we're eating. So if you're eating Kentucky Fried Chicken or you're eating pizzas, that's the fat that it gets incorporated into your membranes, so they don't work that well. You can't hold the charge. So people are walking around, I'm tired all the time. Or they get something, they have cancer and they can't heal. Can't heal. Well, you got to get up to 70 millivolts. You got to get up to 70 millivolts. That means you got to change all the fat in your cells. High fat diet. What kind of fat? Seeds, nuts, avocados, coconut oil. Fats. These are real fats. So we're not going to go into details of anything that you should or should not do right now. I'm just trying to give you the foundation of where all this stuff comes from. Why it's not just a guesswork. There's no theories, it's just the way it is. When you know the way it is, it becomes very simple. So, health, the ability to heal. Now, health can also be, when you define it, when you ask most people think of, will define health as the absence of disease, which is like saying that light is the absence of darkness. So how much darkness would you have to take out of the room to find the light? It's the opposite. Darkness is the absence of light, and disease is the absence of health. There's not another way of doing it, okay? And health cannot, so health has nothing to do with the absence of anything. In fact, health is the presence of something. It's the ability to regenerate, rejuvenate, and procreate. This is health. And health can be defined, therefore, as the optimal functioning of the organism. And in order for an organism to be considered optimally functioning, it must be in the niche, the environment out of which it arose, because it is in that environment that it has its function. Everything it needs is there, and everything it needs to do for others is there. Therefore, taking a polar bear and putting him on the equator, he's going to have a hard time. Taking a tuna and putting it in a freshwater lake, it's going to have a hard time. So all of these creatures and these organisms have their role, their function in the niche out of which they arose, in the niche in which they do have their function. So the question for us is, what is our optimal functioning, our potential, and what is our niche? Well, whether you look at us from a scientific anthropological point of view, Professor Leakey and all that, we came out of northern Africa, equatorial zones. If you look at us biblically, we came out of Eden, which equatorial zone. Iraq, which was at one point very lush, when all that vegetation went underground, got compressed, turned into oil, and that's why the Middle East has got all that stuff, because it was actually a very lush place. But either way you look at it, we came out of it, and that's pretty clear, because you look at our cousins, the apes, they don't naturally live in Norway, Germany. Okay, so this is the environment. So that's where humans belong, and they have their function. And our hands are made to kill. Our hands are made to pluck, to plant, to garden, to caress, love, art. You know, these hands are for. Not for murder. So when you run out of energy, the game's over. So the game is energy. And I just want to tell you one thing. So the ways we get energy again are by the oxygen and the glucose. Glucose comes from everything almost. Everything has glucose almost. And then it goes into those mitochondria. Now here's the problem. If you look around at nature, what you'll notice is that there's no linear thing. There's nothing linear going on. Everything is cyclic, circular, spherical, orbital. Or even our DNA goes like this. I mean, everything is that way. So it's the same with eating. Now all creatures were made to eat and to not eat for a good period of time. So in nature, the way nature is designed perfectly is that an animal might find food for 1 day or 2 days, even 3 days, but then they won't find food for a week. So they go through this period of eating and not eating and not eating. Well, we call it intermittent fasting, but you know, that's normal eating, right? Normal eating. So what happens when you're not eating? When you're not eating, your body still needs to keep, each cell needs to keep 1 billion ATP. How does it get that ATP? It's not getting glucose. It recycles the stuff inside. It turns on what's called the lysosomal system, which eats up, recycles all of the worn out mitochondria, all the viruses, all the other worn out. So all the cells are replenished. One of the main reasons we go to bed at night, there's many, for sleep is amazing. But one of the things that happens with sleep is that we stop eating, finally. You have to be unconscious to stop eating. So you're unconscious now, you're not going to eat. You'll dream about food, but you're not going to eat it. So I'm not eating, so what are your cells doing? They're cleaning house. And so all the old worn out mitochondria that were no longer making 38 ATPs, they're only making 21 at 10 p.m. They're only making 18 for, they get recycled and you have all new ones. So you wake up in the morning with all new mitochondria, you jump out of bed with energy. So did you get your energy from eating? No, you got your energy from not eating. It's when you didn't eat that you were able to utilize what you ate. So there must be periods. So the ideal way to eat is to put a minimum of 16 to 18 hours in between your meals. You stop eating at 6 p.m., you eat your next one at noon. Have a nice meal at noon, have a nice meal at 5, stop eating, go to bed at 9. And then don't eat 1 day a week, and then 4 times a year, fast for 1 week at a time. That's it. It takes lightning to knock you down, I'm telling you. You'll have energy. So you'll see why it is in Machu Picchu men are fathering children at the age of 110 without Viagra. You'll see why the Hunzas are running up and down the hills at 120, 130. So we have a very, very successful premature aging program here. It works quite well. And America has exported it to the entire world. There'll never be a trade deficit when it comes to disease and misery. America will always be without deficit. Anyway, so keep that in mind about sleep. The sleep is tomorrow begins tonight. Tomorrow is defined by what you do tonight. I have a lecture on sleep which will talk about the details, but basically if you go to bed when the sun goes down and you wake up at 4, your body will be in pristine health. All the hormones will be, everything is right. You will have dreamt, had enough dreams, you will have repaired everything. That's what happens. So we have trains of thought, right? If somebody's saying, I lost my train of thought, what they mean is you're really going to, it's just a reminder that everything we do is, we don't do anything, things happen. Thinking is not an active thing, it's a passive thing. Thoughts happen, just like your heart's beating, your lungs are breathing, your glands are secreting, you're not doing anything, it's happening. Life is a happening, we're human beings, not human doings. So when you go to sleep early, and you clean up all you clean up all the dead mitochondria and all that, you wake up with all this energy, and then your day goes well. Now what I mean about trains of thought, there's also trains of behavior. We have behaviors are pretty much, 95% of our mind is subconscious, 5% is conscious. When we're engaging the conscious mind, we're very, very slow. We're not very good at it. So when you're learning to drive a car, you got both hands on the wheel, you're looking. As soon as it gets into the subconscious, you can talk on the phone, you can balance something here. I even drive with my knees. I can drive with my knees. So again, you don't need, so the subconscious is it. So everything's on automatic. So we have trains of behavior. Like you'll watch someone, you put a mother of 4 in the kitchen, and she doesn't have to even, she's not thinking about what to do, and she comes up with a meal. I mean, thoughts pop up in here and there, but we're on trains of behavior. So your behavior for tomorrow will be defined on the train you get on tonight. And I'm going to tell you, if you get on the A train, you're going to wind up in Harlem. You can't, that's where it's going. So the train you're on for tomorrow is the train you get on tonight when you go to sleep. You wake up at 4, you went to bed at 7, you wake up at 4, you do your meditation, you do your reading, you do your exercise, you go out the door, you just read stuff, you're full of energy, and you shouldn't, it's not healthy to eat these donuts or this McDonald's. No way, you're not going to, you feel too fantastic. You went to bed at midnight and you're on your 3rd cup of coffee, and you pass that, you're going to go, what the heck? I'll start tomorrow. So your ability to do what you already know you should do is allowed to exist, allowed to run the show if you've had enough sleep, if you've had the right kind of sleep. It's not just quantity, it's not 11 to 7, 8 hours is not the same as 7 to 3, 7 to 4. Not the same in many ways, which we'll talk about at another lecture.